It is Memorial Day, which means today we take the plastic off of the garden. Good morning, everyone. It's Allison here. Today is Monday, March 25th, 2020. It's Memorial Day. As usual here in Bozeman, Montana, Zone 4B, we have had a rainy and cold-ish Memorial Day weekend. Today is supposed to be, I think, a high in the 70s, and then it's supposed to get 70s and 80s for the rest of the week. So summer is upon us, but we've had the last 4 days of rain and low in the mid 30s. So today is the first day that it's going to warm up, and we should have nights in the 40s and 50s for the next 10 days. So I'm excited to show you where the garden's at. We're going to take the plastic off today and plant some other warm weather vegetables later in the week. So let's go check it out. So starting over here, we have some herbs. My parsley is still rocking. The cilantros, I've been harvesting off of that, and there's some new sowings coming up. The catnip is recovering from being ravaged by Pete the cat. And this is holy basil. It is struggling to grow any at all, but it should be doing well later this week once it gets a little bit warmer. So this section of the garden, I made a couple of changes. I sheet mulched around this currant bush and apricot bush. We also planted another apricot tree, you can see back there. So that's going to be really great planting next year, and it'll keep the weeds down this year. So cabbages are doing great. I've been harvesting off of these chives. I have 3 of those plants. Lemon balm I just planted that yesterday, and that is a medicinal herb that will be self-seeding every year, hopefully. My echinacea is doing well. It hasn't sent up the flowers yet, but it's thriving. And more chives. These tulips are the only 2 bulbs that came up back here, but they are lovely. And then more chives. And over here, this is another kind of perennial section. The currant bushes, I'll show you those in a second, they are exploding. But we have a little strawberry flower, which is really exciting. And there are a couple others in there. So we'll be getting at least a couple strawberries in a little while. And then I've had volunteer sunflowers everywhere. So I've just been transplanting them. You can see I made kind of a nice little row all along here. So those will kind of line this walkway later this summer, which will be really nice. And here for the currant bushes, this is the red currant, I think, and you can see that there are berries on it, but the black currant is really where it's shining. Look at how loaded down this is. So much fruit, so many berries, and this is only the 2nd year, so I'm assuming it'll get even better. So that's really cool. This salvia plant is filling out really nicely. I'm guessing it'll flower this week. And then we have more volunteer sunflowers. I took 2 away from this area to transplant over where I just was. So those will grow up and not have too much competition with each other. And then this trellis here, I'm not sure if I showed it last time, but I planted beans along the base of this trellis, and they haven't sprouted yet. It hasn't been super warm, but hopefully they will fill this out later in the summer. Okay, so let's look at this raised bed. This is my last morning that I will have plastic on it. I'm gonna take the plastic off today and the hoops down so that I can put some trellises up. I have some frost cloth that I will um, put over that'll fit over the trellises if I need to. But our next 10 days look really warm, so hopefully that should be all good. So this area is going to be changing quite a lot in the next couple of weeks. I'll be planting a lot of stuff this week, putting a lot of trellises up, and hopefully seeing a lot of growth. So I'll show you what's going on here today. This is my bed that has radish and greens. The radishes have started to go to seed. You can see this Sichuan Red Beauty right here is bolting, and so I've kind of been letting go to seed, but I have been harvesting the ones that I see signs of bolting because the radish really starts to get woody once it goes to seed, and then it kind of gives some of this other stuff in here some more room to grow. So I've harvested most of these radishes here. You can see there's still a couple. This is a Japanese wasabi radish that I'll probably harvest later today. Another new thing of the garden is I have put tomatoes in every couple feet or so. I was gonna put one right here, but I still have some bok choy that's working on growing, so that'll just wait. But yeah, so I have a Brad's Atomic Grape right here in front of my spinach row that I'm expecting to go to seed in the next couple of weeks. All of these radishes will be gone in the next couple of weeks. This New Zealand spinach has been largely shaded out, but it is a heat tolerant green, so it should do pretty well. So once these radishes are gone, this is another row of radishes. Once those are gone, I will hopefully see some growth from that New Zealand spinach. And then we have all sorts of volunteer cilantro, volunteer spinach. This looks like kale, but it's not. It doesn't look exactly the same as this, so I'm confused about what this is. There's another one here, but it's kind of a fun cross-pollination. And then we have, a red Russian kale here, and then more radishes here that will get pulled out later this week. Another volunteer cilantro plant. This area here is kind of bare, but that will have peppers in it before too long, probably in the next couple of days. This lettuce I've been eating off of a ton, and I think it's pretty heat tolerant. We'll see how it does when the hotter weather comes. Here is a chocolate pear tomato, and it's been in the garden for about a week. Again, more radishes that will be coming out soon. You can see this one's going to seed, and I'm hoping that these tatsoi plants will get a little bit more time to grow. Same with this purple bok choy over here. These radishes, I planted all of this stuff a little bit too closely because I didn't realize how big these radishes were going to get. I have some other varieties, like the French breakfast, that don't get nearly as big. So if I do this method again, I will plant smaller radishes in between these rows, so that it's not so crowded in here. Alright, so we still have our mustard bok choy mutant hybrid doing well. I've been eating it more like bok choy than by mustard, and by that I mean I've just been I haven't been eating it raw. I've been cooking it, blanching it, because it's pretty thick, and it kind of is heading up like bok choy. So that's kind of how I've been eating that. I've got another tomato back there, a yellow pear tomato. This, by the way, is a beer box that has a thermometer under it, so that's why you see this weird beer box in my garden. These carrots are doing lovely. They are loving the weather, so hopefully those will continue to grow well. Another yellow pear tomato back there, and then my leeks are doing well. Again, this kind of stuff is probably going to go to seed in the next week, and then that'll kind of free up this area for peppers. And then garlic here is doing well. It's almost outgrowing the plastic, so it'll be pretty happy to have this plastic gone. And then moving on, we have more mustard that will go to seed in the next week. You can see that some of it already has. Volunteer sunflowers that are being great insect traps. I left just four plants in here. I think I see 3. And I've been transplanting or pulling all the rest of them and putting them in other parts of the garden. So, but these 3 get to stay. And then I had radishes in, let's see, right here in this area that I've pulled out. The arugula I've been eating off of, that will probably go to seed here pretty soon. And then more tomatoes in the back. So these are purple Russians, couple of those, and then we have a ground cherry here that I've planted 2 of these, and I have 2 left to plant. So they will be happy when the warmer weather comes. A couple more radishes, and then this kale is getting munched on, but I'm trying to catch the caterpillars. Caught a couple. So that's just kind of par for the course when you have lots of cabbage moths. And then here we have another ground cherry, looking kind of sad, but I think it will perk up once the weather gets warm this week. Another mustard going to seed, and then my 3 black crim tomatoes that I loved last year, so I'm excited to plant those again. Got some romaine here that took a while to take off, so I haven't harvested anything off of that, but I think it's pretty heat tolerant, so hopefully it'll continue to thrive. And then a couple rogue radishes that still need to be harvested. And then kind of some space in here for some peppers, eggplants, melons, all the warm stuff that I'm gonna plant this week. And then more garlic. You can see this garlic is still doing better than the stuff that was under cover. So that's a good lesson. I'm gonna put this in the back bed next year. So that is a great thing to know. And then raspberries are doing wonderfully. You can see the peas are doing exactly what I want them to do. They are coming up right behind the raspberries. This part of the plant is kind of shading it out, but that's okay. We're getting a little bit of trellising, so I'm hoping these peas will continue to like it here. And then over here we have the newest section of the bed. So I think I showed this last time. This is where I'm going to be planting squash, zucchini, other types of squash. Maybe a couple of my melons are going to go here. So you can see that I have put plastic down because this area is just, the weeds are going to be impossible to fight this year. So I'm going to have the plastic down. I have drip irrigation underneath the plastic. And then next year I'll go ahead and take the plastic off. But that's what's happening here. I have sown some seeds in here, but it just hasn't been warm enough for anything to germinate. So I'm expecting to see some germination this week. And here's our last little garden space. You can see that we have some spare dirt going on over here from a project, but things are finally starting to germinate here. These bok choy are coming up. And there's some little baby kohlrabis. I don't know if you can see any of those. There's one. And then spinach. It's coming up here. So this is where I'm going to put my garlic next year. And then I'm also planning on putting some asparagus in the back there. But yeah, this area gets a lot of sun in early spring. And then as the sun starts to kind of track back north, it gets blocked by these trees in the morning, which isn't a big deal when it's warm out. But yeah, so I think garlic will thrive back here. And I almost forgot to show you my little volunteer sunflower corner. So all of these guys were volunteers from a head that I just put down here. And then these big ones are transplants over here and then here. So we're gonna have some fun sunflower times all around here this year that I'm really excited about. Okay, so the rest of the indoor situation here, I still do have some sprouts underneath the grow lights, but they haven't turned on yet for the day. So I have some melons and some okra and some flowers under there. And then here we have some starts that I haven't put out yet. So this Brad's Atomic Grape, I just went ahead and put it in a pot to see how it would grow in a pot there. And then I have a couple other tomato plants that are really big and healthy that I'm not planning on planting under the plastic. So I've been waiting for those, but I think I'm going to plant them today. And then same thing with these ground cherries. And then this basil and nasturtium box, I've just been dragging in and out of the garage because it doesn't really basil doesn't love temperatures below 40 degrees. And then peppers, I have, I think 13 peppers or so, that I'll probably harden off today and then put them in the garden either tonight or tomorrow evening. And they are gonna love it in some bigger spaces. And then lastly, I have some eggplants. This is 4 eggplants. You can see that they are ready to go out. So those will be going in the garden this week again as well. So thanks for checking out my garden today. Things are really going to start warming up in the next week, and we're going to be seeing a lot of growth. So I will update you in a week or so to show you what else is going on and what growth we've seen. All right, see you next time. I just had to come back and show you because the hoops are off and the garden is glorious. Summer, here we come.